and Learn, sponsored by. We are here for the Lunch and Learn engagement, sponsored by the Women Initiative Network Business Resource Group, which I am a member. We thank you all for joining today. Welcome to the Women and Men of North America. On behalf of the WIN Network, today our special guest speaker is Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, a clinical psychologist and founder of WomenSpeak.com. WomenSpeak.com is the Women Connect for Good, Women Connect for Good Foundation, which seeks to educate women to participate in social profit activities and improve their careers, finances, health, and relationships. The phone calls will be placed on mute for the rest of the United States, excluding the Michelson office. And with that, I will welcome Nancy O'Reilly, Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, to Women's Network and Irvine, California.
I know that there's some people from parts of the country on here, so I want to welcome the people from New York, and Atlanta was my birthplace, by the way, so I need to welcome them and anyone else in the United States, but thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful. You know, I've been doing radio for about 5 years, and one of the things that I have been doing is I've been talking to lots and lots of women. Not only have I done lots of research since the 90s about women and how they feel about growing old in our society, but I've been talking to women about all the different issues when it comes to relationships, their health, their business, and staying fit and vital. I have a bucket list. I have things I want to do. So I've got all these women I've been talking to for the last 5 years. And the Women Connect for Good Foundation, we were just talking about that. Everything that happens today is for the Women Connect for Good Foundation. I founded this foundation a couple of years ago, and it's really based on two principles, and that's why I'm here today talking to you. First of all, it's women helping women. First of all, there's smart, amazing women like you in the world that want to stay sharp, they want to stay focused, they want to stay on the game plan. And then there's women that are looking at you today that are thinking about how can I be more like her? How can I make it up that ladder of success? Not only in their business, but in their lives and also in their communities. So the Women Connect for Good Foundation is really two types of women. Women that like you that have already made it, you're successful, you want to stay that way, and there's women like you that are saying, how do I improve my life? How do I make things better? So I want to thank you for allowing me to continue that mission. First of all, I want to say to you all, and any of the other sisters, you are now part of the Women Connect for Good Sisterhood, so let's just make that clear before I get started. So, sisters, I'm here today. Empowering women. This has really been something that I've been doing for a long, long time. And one of the things I do with radio, I always ask them to tell me their personal story, because you know, we women look at other women, we compare ourselves. We do that naturally, we just do it by, you know, it's just what we do. But when we look at a woman that's successful sometimes, and we look, she's pretty, she's attractive, she's smart, she's all that package, we think to ourselves, why is it so easy for her? Well, you know, you and I both know that's not the case. I know you're probably looking at me and you go, oh, it's so easy for her. Well, no, it hasn't been. It's been a journey for me. And everything that I'm doing today and everything that I'm talking to you today is based on lots of different things that have occurred in my life. Some of them good, and some of them not very good. But they've allowed me to be who I am today, so I'm sharing that story. I was basically a tomboy. When I came out of the chute, I came out 2 months early. I was a 3-pounder. There's no pictures of me anywhere because I was probably so ugly, because I probably looked like a little monkey without hair. So there's no pictures, there were no pictures of me, but I think what happened was I wanted to get here so fast and so quickly to start doing things. That's why I came 2 months early. But there was something that happened to me when I was born. I didn't feel prized as a girl. Why I felt that way, I'm not sure. So for me, it was always a matter of being a tomboy, getting out there and doing all these other things. And then, you know, as life proceeds and you know, sports, you can only go so far, you only do so many things, I fell in love. And when I fell in love, God, she has a great sense of humor. I continue to have one daughter after another. So I am blessed with 3 beautiful daughters. And then after the 3 beautiful daughters came 7 granddaughters. let me tell you, last February 14th, we had our first grandson. So we do like boys too. But the point is that really, I think I've always been, this has been my mission. I've always been a part of really empowering and helping women to find their voices. Women Connect for Good and the Women Speak Project is really all about that, helping each and every woman to find her place, her passion, her purpose, and to find her voice. So let's talk about empowering women. And I think this is sometimes a mixed bag for women. I'm going to let you switch that over. Okay. The next one. Do you have enough power? Now I'm going to ask you that question. You can raise your hands or not. And you know, really, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. But when I often ask this question, women are kind of hesitant. But how do you really think you have enough power? Okay, one. But there's different kinds of power, aren't there? There's personal power. There's professional power. There's psychological power. There's emotional power. There's mental power. There's lots and lots of different power. But women overall are pretty uncomfortable with the word power. You know, you say, are you a powerful person? I'm, you know, powerful or whatever. But what we're going to be talking about is a different kind of power. It's the power to, not the power of. And I think there's a very, very distinct difference between those two powers. And Gloria Self, who's one of my co-authors, there's a book that's coming out December 5th. I don't want to promote myself here, but it's really about the women, leading women, 20 women who are actually doing the same thing that I am doing. But she talks about women in power. She teaches this, but she's all about helping women to build their careers. But she says that women are uncomfortable with the word power. And the reason they often are is because power sometimes is connected to violence, to abuse, to other things that aren't as nice. But she says basically that when women start to own their own power, you know, when you were born, just think back, you were born with all these different things, all these resources were there, all these amazing talents, and all these things that had happened to you. They were all right there when you came into this world. They've done research, and I want you to listen to this, but they've done research. Little girls up to the age of 9, have good self-esteem, they have good body image, they really like themselves. But something starts to occur with little girls after the age of 9. They start to see the media, they start to have, people have expectations of them, they start to lose self-esteem, they start to lose good self-esteem and body image. So what is going on there? What happens to that? How do we come into this world with all those powers and all that self-esteem and all those wonderful things, and then we start to lose them? Or we start to forget them. Maybe that's what we do. We start to forget them. So, okay, so if you had enough power, what would you do? And I don't know if you've read Sheryl Sandberg's book. It's a wonderful book. It's called Lean In. But one of the questions that she asked, and I really think it's an important question to ask you all today, is what would you do if you were not afraid? What would you do today if you were not afraid? And she's got these Lean-In groups that are all over the United States right now that are forming right and left. And these are young women from the ages of 20 all the way up to, you know, my age and beyond. But again, they're asking that question. But today, if you said to yourself, if I wasn't afraid, I would do this. Well, this year, because I had to get past some of my own personal fears, my own emotional personal fears, I went bungee jumping. I mean, I'm sorry. I had to figure out a way to get past that fear. But it's amazing, bungee jumping. Also, I started riding horses. I'm going to start showing, I have show horses, big show horses. But the thing is that I have found personally, when I get past my fears, or even recognize my fears, then I'm able to move forward. So again, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Each time I have gone there and have gone to the next level, I find myself feeling so confident. But again, that goes back to the whole issue. So I'm going to try, hopefully I'll remember to ask you this question when we're finished today, but it really has a lot to do with empowerment. If you were not afraid, what would you do today when you left this room? How would you be different? How would it be different in your personal life? How would you be different in your professional life? How would you be different in your community? Because those are all the different powers that are so very, very important. So, next one. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 things today. We're going to start talking how do you get empowerment? How do you do that? And the first one is sharpening your essential tools. Now, when I first started talking to you, I talked about smart, amazing women. And that's what I've been doing. I've been talking to women like you for years, the last 10 years or more. But it really is based on how do you keep yourself sharp? How do you get yourself to the next level? What are those things that you need to do? And again, we go back to the emotional, we go back to the psychological, the physical, spiritual, all those things are very, very important. But of course, in your business, you want to keep your tools sharp. We were here, I got here early and we were all doing the technology. This makes everything looks easy for you. It looks easy now, but if you've been here a few minutes before this started, everybody was really hustling around going, let's get this technology to work. But it takes all those tools. It takes part of those things that we need to stay sharp. So it's all about keeping that pencil sharp and moving forward. Relationships. Okay, there's different kinds of relationships. The first one that's most important to me, and as a psychologist, I've worked with women and I've done this for years and years, is the relationship that you have with yourself. How do you feel about yourself? When you looked in the mirror this morning, how did you feel about you? But I've always said we start with ourselves and then we move forward. But there's a relationship with ourselves that's very important. There's a relationship we have with our families, which is extremely important. And then there's a relationship we have with our work families. I consider you all to have a family here. Each one of you, I've watched you endearing with one another. I've seen you laughing with each other. There's a lot of camaraderie, but that's an important relationship as well. And last but not least, the relationship that you have with your community, or the greater good. I call it the global, the greater good. We're talking about the community at large. I'm sure many of you do many, many things in your community. I'm sure your company does many philanthropic things as well. But those are important relationships. And of course, with your business, relationships are everything when it comes to the insurance business. Okay, the third one, working for what matters. I've spent a lot of time talking with companies about what they produce. And sometimes we forget what we're producing, what the outcomes of what we're doing. You all have a very, very special need. You take care of people's needs. You take care of their homes. You take care of all these things that they need. So your relationship with them and of course, what you do for them is part of your legacy. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want to leave here in this world? That is what's most important. Okay. Okay, we pretty much. Okay, so these tools, again, are very, very key to keeping you sharp and moving forward. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, maintaining boundaries. Now, you're probably wondering what that means. But women, we have some problems with our boundaries. And when I put detoxifying circle of friends, how many of you are very good at saying no? As they're shaking, by the way, they're shaking. Again, when we talk about boundaries, we really talk about what about our personal issues. Again, there's only so much we can do. Women, of course, have two main emotions that I have found that's very prevalent. One is guilt, and one is worry. Those two are pretty good with women. They feel guilty and they worry a lot. But maintaining boundaries is really about empowering. It really is about that ability to basically find out, to determine, again, what your job description is. There was a young woman I worked with. I did a lot of EAP work. I was an EAP counselor, so I did a lot of employee assistance programming.
What does EAP stand for?
EAP is Employee Assistance Professional. Many companies, I'm sure yours has an EAP as well. They help families, they help individuals. It's work related, but it also helps people stay at work and whatever issues. Everything involves work one way or another. So anyway, this young woman came in and she basically she was no longer working. She had basically mental exhaustion. She was just completely fried. But I began to talk to this young woman. I said, well, tell me about your job. And she was a receptionist. She's got a receptionist out there. She sits at the desk and everybody comes in and she has to write down, check off, whatever. Well, this young woman got to the point where she became the major resource She was the first person anybody saw, and so they would come to her and they would ask her to do all these things for her to do. And many of them really wasn't her job description. But the more she said yes, the more they gave to her. Well, finally it got to the point where she wouldn't even get up to go to the restroom, and she wouldn't even get up to go take a lunch break. So the point was that finally she just burned out. She just basically had no boundaries whatsoever, and so finally she was just exhausted. So learning to set boundaries for yourself is so extremely important. Again, based on your job description, and I'm talking about that as far as you can't say no to your boss. I mean, there are limitations as far as yes and no. But there are also people in your life right now, we call them toxic people. I bet you know who those people are. I bet you know who they are. They're the people that make you uncomfortable. And they could even be family members, and I'm not going to go too far there. But, I mean, we love our families. We don't necessarily like them. But there are, the holidays, we always know there's going to be a few toxic people. But the point is to start recognizing in your life people that empower you, people that enhance who you are. There's 24 hours in a day. You get to decide every 24 hours what you do with that time and who you spend that time with. Even in the workplace, there's probably people that you get along with better than others. And you know how you can start to learn to neutralize that. But when we surround ourselves with people, guess what happens? We become the people we spend time with. I want you to hear that again. We become the people we spend time with. So if you're spending time with people that are empowering you, that are positive to you and about themselves, that have good self-esteem, good body image, and all those things, and you surround yourself with those people, guess what? You become those people. If you do the reverse, you know what's going to happen. You understand what's going to happen. So again, the people that you spend time with, and you get to choose that 24 hours a day who you spend time with and how they make you feel. So again, it's really about kind of connecting again with yourself and understanding how each and every person who comes into your life affects you. Because only you can decide how you want to react and what you want to do about that. Okay, so knowing your limits. Okay. Keep trying. This is something, well, I can perfectly speak to this. I was divorced 2 years ago. I've been married a long time. And I'm a runner. And so what was interesting, when all this was going on, I was still trying to maintain. I was still trying to do everything that I was doing. But running, I kept falling. I'd be running along and I'd trip and I'd fall. And I'd look down and my knees would be scraped and bruised and whatever else. But then, I think to myself, darn it, I'm going to get back up. I'd get back up and I'd run back in, and I have a trainer. He's looking at me and goes, my gosh, what happened to you? I go, nothing. But it really isn't about how you fall. It's about how you get back up. And this is what I have found, and I think this is where women, we are probably the best. One of the things I do a lot of is disaster relief work. I worked at 9/11, I worked at the California fires, I worked in the tornadoes. But what I have found with people, and I think women are the best at doing this, is that during the worst of times, women are, and people are at their very best during the worst of times. They're alive and they seem to grow. And I think that's the talent that women have. So we need to keep remembering that. Keep remembering that you can get back up. It's not how you fail, it's how you get back up. So, in reinvention, I do not believe in the word retire. I don't know if some of you are thinking, oh, gee, I can't wait till I retire. But one of the things that I talk a lot about, and a lot of the women that I spend time with, and again, the women in the book, all about reinvention. Here's a little cue for you. Every 7-8 years, all the cells in our bodies are replaced, by the way. So when you go home and your spouse or whoever you want to talk to, you say, guess what, I'm a brand new person today. 8 years ago, coming up on next year, I'll be a brand new person. And that's a good point, though. That is a good point. I have reinvented myself so many times, but it's wonderful. The thing is about change, being fluid and flexible. But right now, you're in a company that you can probably do lots of different jobs. You can move up the ladder, and you can continue to do things. But your expertise will continue. But one of the things I find with women that we're also extremely good at, that we're good about taking our time, our talent, and our treasures and making a difference. Making a difference for other women, other people, our community, the greater world. And I want you to think about that today, because that's empowering. When we start to take ourselves out of ourselves and put it into others and allowing and taking that energy and that power into others, it makes us fully a different kind of person. So, I mean, today I'd like for you to just think about that. Don't retire, refire, reinvent yourself. Think about what you want to do the next 5 years. You know, we do a business plan. Every business has at least a 5-year plan. What is your 5-year plan? What are you going to do in the next 5 years? You know, what are your goals? What are your objectives? And I think that's something that we as women are very, very good at for other people, thinking about for other people. But today we're going to think about it for ourselves. Think about ourselves 5 years from now. I mean, I know what I'm going to be doing. I mean, my bucket list is long. My bucket list is, when I show my first time, I'll be the oldest woman coming out to show. You know, but why not? I mean, and that's the other thing. Why not? You know, we women sometimes also, as we get older, we start to become a little bit, oh, well, I shouldn't do that because of my age, or I shouldn't do that because of this. No, you should do anything and everything. The possibilities are endless what you're able to do. So this is where you take your time, your talent, your treasures, and this passion. Refire it, rebuild it. Because you had it at one point and you probably still have it. You know, today, it's not about what I'm telling you, it's about what I'm hoping you'll remember. So, I mean, you all are smart. You know, I'm just standing up here. All I'm trying to do is remind you of things that you've known, that have been there somewhere in your life, and then maybe we're just going to pull it back up to the surface again. So, reinvention and whatever you do when you fall, get back with style. Okay. Oh, these women are not good at this. Have you ever been to networking events? I don't know why they call them networking. Now, there's some women out there, they're just giving your business cards and they're just shuffling them back and forth, and there's other women that don't say a word. They don't toot their horns at all. You know, I'm not going to, I don't want to say this in a negative, but men are very good at this, and we need to learn from them. By the time that you've met a man, you know his golf score, you know his handicap, you know how much money he makes, you know what his job is, you know how many children he has, you know where he went to school. Why don't we do that? It's okay for us to share who we are, because that's when we join with each other. You ever notice when you really start talking to someone for the first time, you find there's something that you have in common. You have something very much in common with them. Are they able to hear me okay? Okay. Hopefully everybody's hearing me okay. Anyway, but you always find something in common when you start to share your story. Each of you has a unique, special story. Where you were born, how you were raised, things about you that make you special and unique. And when we share those stories, we start to really join with one another. And that's where the sisterhood really is all about. You know, I've been blessed to be a part of this network of women. And there's a network of women that are also that are all over the United States, not only the lean-in groups, but there's another group called the Soletta Networks. It's, you know, Soletta Shoes. But these are women who are coming together because they have common interests in the workplace, but they're also now sharing about their emotional, you know, what's going on in their personal lives too. We are desperately wanting to connect with each other. We are desperately looking for mentors. Right here in this room alone, there are women that either have mentored you or you can mentor, but that's where the common bond comes. Because here's an example also. This woman came up to me and she says, Nancy, this woman is trying to get my job. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, well, she's young, she's 20-something, you know, and Diane was a little bit older, and she says, but she follows me all over the place, and she's always asking questions, and she just is always just right there on my, you know, she just right by my, you know, always right there. And I looked at her, and all of a sudden I said, well, Diane, have you ever thought possibly she just wants to learn from you? You know, we women truly are looking for mentors. We are truly looking for someone who's been there, done that. Because when we can share that experience, it's such a rich experience. But again, someone younger, you can learn so much from them because they have so much experience in other ways. So it's really this continuous experiential thing that we can have with one another as women. But again, sharing yourself is not wrong. It's, what was it? Oh, the word selfish sometimes. I don't want to be selfish. I mean, what are you talking about, selfish? This woman said, and she goes, well, you know, I said, I haven't seen you. We worked out in the same place. I said, I haven't seen you for a while. So she goes, well, she says, I don't have time to work out. And I said, why? She said, because my kids are in school. And I said, okay, and they got lots going on. She said, I'll go to school. I'll work out when my kids go to school or go away to college. And I thought, oh, my gosh, she's going to wait till they go away to college. I mean, the thing is we don't need to wait. I mean, it's about really taking care of ourselves. It's really about sharing our stories as well. So praising others. Okay, and about building the team. You know, right, this is what we're doing right now. We're building the team. I hope when you all leave today that you will look at each other and you'll say, you know, just because we're in the room together, now we have a common bond, another common bond, because I know you're a very tight group here anyway. All right, next one. How powerful are you? This is a quiz, and you're going to take it, but you don't have to give me the answers. You can write down the numbers. I assume everybody on the webinar has these as well. Has everybody got these? Okay, so we're just going to go down these pretty quickly, but based on, again, the higher your score, the better self-esteem you have, the more powerful you are. So the first one, in a crisis, I am calm and able to focus. Well, you're in the insurance business. I'd say that's a good quality to have. I'm optimistic and see difficulties as temporary. I can tolerate high levels of uncertainty in my life. I bounce back quickly after difficulty or disappointment. I am playful. I see humor and I laugh at myself. This is so important. Okay, next. I'm self-confident. I like who I am. I'm a curious person. I like to try new things. I learn from my past experiences and experiences of others. I solve problems well. I have common sense. Boy, that's important. And this last one is so important. I am flexible, I'm a good leader, and I work well with others. Just do a little scan of your numbers, and again, you don't have to share that with anybody else unless you want to. But again, this will give you a pretty good sense of just where you're at. One thing I like to do with these kinds of surveys or questionnaires is check them from time to time, you know, see how you're doing. You know, maybe in a month or so you look at it again and say, hey, this is better. But sometimes it's good to have a measure, just so we know where we're at. So today, use it the way you'd like. And again, if somebody wants to go out and tell somebody else, that's up to you all, but you don't have to. All right? Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's move on. Maslow. Has anybody ever heard of Maslow? He's so important. As a psychology student, I always heard about Maslow. Well, everything, in fact, in the insurance business, this is probably important for you all to understand as well. It's based on needs. And this is the way it's all about. Okay, for example, when somebody has been through a pretty disastrous time in their life, they basically what I call regress. Because again, they get back to basic survival. I was talking about the disasters that I've worked at, and it's been a privilege to work with these people. But basically, many of them start at ground one. So it's about safety, it's about security, it's about making sure they get food and shelter and everything else to make sure that they're protected at that point. Once that's taken care of, or the basics, again, breathing, those things are important. But security, breathing is very important. It really is. And then we come to friendship, love and belonging. And this is important. And that goes back to your work family, your relationships of all kinds. And then esteem. Now, as you, what you need to understand about this, these things take place this way. We have to have certain things before the next level is achieved. So then, again, friendship, family, sexual intimacy, again, closeness. We were talking about it earlier. It's called connection, belonging. That's so very, very important for us human beings. And then esteem. Once we have those things, then we really can start to develop those self-esteem. That self-esteem, that confidence, that respect of others, respect of self. And that's so very important. And then last but not least, self-actualization. I believe that I'm still working on that. I don't know about anybody else, but I think that's an ongoing process. You know, the self-awareness, again, there's good days, there's days that I'm more self-actualized than others. Today I'm not sure if I'm more self-actualized than I didn't think that other one. Okay. I hope that one too. But, so that's where our creativity, and that's where we really, that's our personality coming out. That is who we really are. And that's the other thing I'd like to share. It's about being your authentic self. When we talk about all these things about being authentic, you know when you're authentic. You know when you really are truly who you are. You know what you were born to be. That's your authentic self. Okay, so that's how that works. So again, with your questionnaire, and then again with where you are on this chart, it gives you kind of a monitor or a place that you can look at yourself. Okay. Your most important relationship, and we've already talked about that. I don't know, how many of you have a regular workout routine? Great, super. Very good. Well, so you work out. Did everybody eat breakfast this morning? Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Did everybody eat breakfast? Oh, good. Super, super. Okay, so you start your day with fuel. You work out. How many of you do any type of meditation, yoga, any type of relaxation? Two. How many of you just recently had your hair done, your nails done, had a massage? Wow, very good. Very good. Okay. Let's see. When did you get your hair done? I mean, when did you last take a trip or a vacation time away? In the last month or so? Okay. All right. Okay. So what I'm doing here basically are talking about some of the things that are so very, very important. Relaxation, connection with self, again, fuel, all those things. How many of y'all had a mammogram this year and been to your doctors? Okay. So again, this is a very, very, this group really, really takes a lot of good care of themselves. I hope everybody else does too. But that's really making yourself a priority. And a lot of women don't do that. And again, only we can be models for each other when we really encourage. It was funny. I do massages. That I have rotator issues. But I'll say to another woman, she goes, "Where have you been?" I said, "Well, I just got a massage." Oh, you got a massage? And I'm like, yeah. Well, you had time for a massage. I mean, it's interesting sometimes when you say those things, instead of her saying, "Well, that is so good for you. That is so therapeutic. I'm so happy for you," Or instead of, "Oh, I wish I had time for that. I just really wish I had time for that." We have as much time in that 24 hours a day as we choose. We always pencil yourself into your own calendars. Pencil yourself into your own calendars. I know you put everybody else's activities in there. You put your children, your family, your co-workers, and your community, your church. Everybody gets penciled in. But pencil yourself in and start making that a priority. Because I know for me, if it's not written down in my book or on my phone, it's not there. So I have to make myself a priority. And the more I do that, guess what happens? I think to myself, I'm worth it. I feel better. I acknowledge that. I understand that. And when you share that with other women, they start to say, okay, how many women do you know that need permission to do a lot of things in their lives? And, you know, permission is like, oh, go ahead and do that. It's okay. Well, I really shouldn't do it. But giving yourself permission, it has to start with you. And in helping other women to do the same, to help them to give permission to themselves. So maybe even this week sometimes someone says, oh, I really don't have time for that. You go, oh, yes, you do. Go ahead. Get that massage. Get your nails done. You know, the thing is, make yourself a priority. I can't tell you that anymore. That is probably the number one reason to empower yourself and how to empower yourself is make yourself a priority on the list of people, places, and things. Okay. Next. And again, we talked about the fear. It is so important to look at your own fears and embracing change. Here's an example of change. And, you know, as a therapist, I did sit-down therapy for 25 years, but I did brief therapy, so it was strategic problem solving. So I always had lots of questions, and basically it was all based on problems and issues and strategies. But one of the things that people would always do, they would come into my office and they go, I want to change. I go, yeah? And they go, I really, really want to change. And I go, don't believe it. You know, I'm not. First of all, I'd say, who are you wanting to change for? Sometimes when we got down to it, it was for somebody else. But what I also found is that most people, when they say they want to change, when they came into my office, when we started to work on, I want to change, did not want to change. Because change is hard. It is hard. If I were to go into your bathroom tonight while you're sleeping, and I took your toothpaste and your toothbrush and all your toiletries and moved them all over your bathroom, and then did a few other things in your bathroom, or maybe even in your closet, what do you think your life would be like by about 30 minutes after you woke up? You'd be saying, who moved my toothbrush? Who moved my toothpaste? The point is that we are creatures of habit. So we need to understand that part of it. We understand that we are creatures of habit. So when it comes to being fluid and flexible, that is about being empowered and understanding that life is going to throw us a curve just about every day. I promise, though, I don't have your addresses, and I'm not coming in your bathrooms. I have assigned people in this office to do that for me. So embracing change and feeling your fears. Also, the other thing is acknowledging your feelings. They say to us that we women are creatures of our emotions. But one thing that's happening, and there's a movement, by the way, and this is that sisterhood we're talking about, is the feminine mystique is becoming more and more important in our business. Because now what we're finding is women used to dress like men, try to act like men, but you know what? Women, we get to act like women now. Because you know what? Because we have these amazing qualities. We have instincts. We have great communication skills. We have an eye for detail. And so women now, the whole principle is really accepting and understanding your feminine heart, that sensuality, not the sexuality, but the sensuality of being a woman. So understanding and accepting those things about yourself. I mentioned the Stiletto Network. These are women. They wear high heels, they wear makeup, they wear jewelry, they look good. The point is that they are accepting their femininity. They're enjoying it, they're relishing it, and they're using it to build their lives professionally and personally and in their communities as well. So, all right, most important relationship, if you don't like yourself, who will? And other relationships come out. Let's talk about relationships. Let's go to the next slide. Likability. You know, the first thing, I was driving here, and I was like, oh my God, the traffic, I wonder if they're going to like me. Are they? Likability is so important. We were talking about this, visiting other countries, and that sometimes there's a language barrier. But we have some really, really important commonalities when it comes to our language, whether it's Italian, German, French, whatever the language is. A smile, and just some act of kindness, some simple act of kindness. But and that comes from likability. Your business is all about likability, isn't it, really, when you stop and think about it? Because it's really how people perceive you. By the way, one of my really, really good friends, she is an insurance broker in 9 states, and Ray is a master of likability. I give her like a 10 plus on likability. But Ray has a very special talent. She knows exactly what people need. She goes in and she hears, she listens, and she has this talent. You know, she heard that, you know, you were having some issue with a child, or even, you know, maybe your mother was ill or something. She just knows to pick up on things, and she'll come and ask you, or she'll give you something, but something that she knows about how to connect with you at such a personal, deep level that, I mean, her likability score is a 10 plus. So, you know, it's important, people that you work with, that they like you. And it's important that people that you work with like you as well. I will say 9 times out of 10, most of the people I work with professionally are people I like. They're people I spend time with. If it's my doctor, my lawyer, or my insurance broker, Ray, or it's anybody I go for services, it's because, you know what, I like them. And you know what, the better our relationship, the better the service is. Because when I walk in there, I don't know about you, I do not like to call somewhere and go through 15, you know, punch this, do that. I want to call somebody and I want to talk to them and I want them to know who I am. So likability is empowering because it's an opportunity. We human beings make decisions on when we meet somebody. I know the people, when I walked in here, they looked at me, and about 30 seconds later, they were starting to think about me, and they're going, she's dressed in orange, her hair's blonde, she's got those shiny shoes on, let's see, you know. But they were thinking very quickly about how I was dressed before I ever opened my mouth. And I knew that, and you know that. But it's okay, because once they get to know me, I know that then that relationship really starts to begin. But then it starts with a smile, and it starts with a connection. So likability. 5 people will tell 5 more people who will tell 5 more. And they can either say something really good about you, or they can make it happen, the reverse. So, and that works in every single aspect of your life. So 5 people can make or break you. So likability. Think about what your score is today. What would you give yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean, just a smile right now. If you looked at the person next to you and just smiled, isn't it amazing what can happen between 2 people when they just smile at each other? You know, just that. I mean, it just opens the doors. You know, some days I know I'll go into the grocery store and, you know, I'm having a good day. Hey, what's going on? Hey. Pretty soon everybody's talking to everybody. Have you noticed that? If you just say, hey, you know, I come from the Midwest, everybody does this. you just put a, you know, like you can just put like an automatic arm on your door, just do that, and people do that. But, you know, it depends on what part of the country you are. But I find no matter where I go, if I just say, hey, pretty soon people are talking to me. And if I'm smiling, because I'm a jabber. I like to walk in and start to jab, but pretty soon you got a conversation going on. And then before you're done, people are smiling. But you're smiling too, which is even more important. All right, 5 people. All right. And there's more than 5 people in this room. Okay. Work for what matters the most. This is what you produce. Okay, you know, when I ask you, if I ask any one of you, what do you do? What do you do? What do you provide? What do you give to the world? I probably would get lots of different answers. But I guess if somebody asks me, what do you do, Nancy? I mean, I can start out by telling you I'm a psychologist, but that's not really who I am. I'm really a person that's in this world just like you, wanting to connect, wanting to belong, wanting to make a difference. And so if I start to really, really start to tell you what I do and what I hope to produce, you know, what I hope to produce today is when you all leave here, is that you're going to feel empowered. that you're going to really feel good about yourself, and you're really going to feel good about where you work and what you do and the greater community and all the options and all the opportunities that you have when you. That's what I hope to produce. So when you think about your job, don't give me your job description, but give me, and you don't have to do this, but give me what you truly produce. There are millions of people out there that, believe it or not, that you're doing something wonderful for. And every single one of them needs you. And it's so important what you do. And I think you need to make sure that you understand that you're providing a wonderful service and that you're helping millions of people. And sometimes we forget that. I was talking to this one person, I won't even mention the name, and he said, I said, well, what do you produce? He goes, oh, I just sell auto parts. No. You do more than that. Jobs, security, what the money does to help the community. We have to think about all the greater good and all the things that we do and what we produce. And it's a ripple effect. If you take a pebble, think of yourself as a pebble, and we throw you into the pond, it's going to ripple out, isn't it? But that's what you have to understand. Every one of you has that potential and that opportunity to affect so much more. And sometimes you don't remember that's how much power too that you have. So again, that's about building a happy family, a strong community, and then fulfilling your business's mission. I know you have a mission statement, and I bet if you read it today, it would probably make you feel very proud and very good about what you do. So always remember why you're in a company, because you're more than a company. You're a family. You're a group of people that have come together to provide an amazing service for many, many, many people out there that are depending on you. So, okay. So, again, I think we've talked about this, how you view yourself and how you want people to view you. Okay? We go. This is what's important. And this is why I talk about this at the very end. It's leaving a legacy. You know, if I were to have you write your eulogy, if I had you write down, Karen was this, Jane, Sarah, how would you want that to read? What would you want people to say about you? For me, I would like for them to say she was kind, she was caring, she made a difference. And she did no harm. These are things that would be important for me to have in my eulogy. What would you want in yours? What would you want people to say about you as far as what you're leaving? And in the workplace as well. We know there's people who go, oh, she's the best team player here we've got. She is someone that I can depend on. If I ask her for some help on a project, she's always there. I think that's what you have to think about when you're doing your job. That's empowerment. What do you want to leave? What do you want to have here? What do you want people to say about you? What's important to you? And when you understand what's important to you, then your actions will follow. Those behaviors will come as far as integrity, responsibility, caring, concern. All of those things come into play. And then, of course, the last thing, I think we're just about right as far as time. I can't believe it. Wow. It's pursuing your dream. I want you all to dream. I don't care what your age is. I don't care, what your job is. But we all have dreams. We started out with them. I had them. I still have them. Like I said, I'm going to be riding that horse. I'm going to send you a video of that. Jumping out of another plane. Skydiving. Oh, I went skydiving too. But the thing is that revitalize that passion. If it's not there, let's get it burning again. Take your time, your talent, and your treasures and use them in all aspects of your life. And so I want to just thank each and every one of you. I know this. You all are a wonderful group of people. I know that what you do and what you provide is so very, very important. But thank you for allowing me to be a part of that. And remember, we are sisters now. So thank you so much for your time.
This this time, if we received any email questions, we'll read them and have Dr. Nancy respond. Did we receive any?
A couple.
Good. Okay, we received a couple. If you have others that you'd like to email, you received an email from your invite to provide that. Is there anybody in the room here that'd like to ask a question of Dr. Nancy? Oh, don't be shy. Come on, we just heard.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. I was confused about one thing. You said,
Confusion is a sign of growth.
it was about tooting your own horn by praising others or something like that.
Well, tooting your own horn also is talking about your accomplishments. Women also do this thing too, which is, and I'm bad about this. I'll get an award, and I'll go like this, put it over there. And so then I'm chugging along to the next one. The thing is we need to accept and understand what this truly means. When you receive an award, it's recognizing who you are and what your talents and your abilities are. So let it soak in, accept it, put the award up there and look at it because that's who you are. That's part of who you are. It's important. And it also helps others to look at you as a teacher, as an educator, as someone that they can mentor, you can mentor with as well. So tooting your horn, yes, it is important, but also praising others as well.
So
They do go well. Absolutely. When we compliment others, what do we get in return? We definitely, when we compliment others, we compliment ourselves because it truly turns around both ways. But also, tell people who you are. Tell them your story. Share those experiences. That's what's important.
Okay, very
I
good.
think there was one back here.
We'll take.
English or what?
It's the country. It's English style.
So the question was, what kind of horse style do you follow?
It's country pleasure. I have half Arabians and Arabians, and they're beautiful. One say, hey, lucky day, trippy shock, and magneto.
All right. There is a question from email that says, with the questions on how powerful are you, has Dr. Nancy taken a survey of audiences to see what the ranges are that women give themselves? How does this compare between women and men?
Just to kind of give you an example, there was a group of attorneys and another attorney. These are all female attorneys, and basically they asked that question of these attorneys: How many of you feel you have enough power? Guess what? Less than half of them raise their hands. The point is that women don't. They don't want. If they feel it, they're not going to recognize it. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like my grandmother used to say, "Beauty is beauty does, pretty is pretty does." We really have trouble with that word. We just have trouble with that word. So sometimes women don't want to recognize it. So it's the power to, not the power of. Just remember that. I'm a part of an organization called Female Leaders in Philanthropy, and I would ask women to join. It's called FLIP, and this is women helping women. And I'd have women say, "Oh, I can't join." I go, "Why not?" She goes, "They say I'm not a leader." So it's really how we need to start viewing ourselves in a positive, because all these women were leaders in one way or another, but they weren't willing to accept and acknowledge that label. Power to, flip, leaders. That's what you all are. And understanding that gives you that advantage and that opportunity to do anything you want. So it's okay. It's okay. You're okay and I'm okay. All right, there.
Thank you, Dr. Nancy. Another question is, what was the most effective...
Oh,
sorry?
That was me. Sorry.
It was all effective.
It was effective, all right.
Sorry, the question just went silent there for a moment.
Everything's effective.
What was the most effective item, action, that made you realize you were powerful, and what age did you have this realization?
Oh, wow. Well, I think, again, having 3 daughters, actually, I was very blessed. I had very strong female role models in my family. My grandmothers were both, they both ran their own business. My grandmother was basically ran a jewelry company, and my other grandmother basically was my grandfather was a minister, and if you know anything about ministers' wives, they work very, very hard. But they were very strong female role models. plus my mother was, so I was very blessed. And then having 3 daughters, I continued my education. I got married when I was in college, so I had to go to school, work, and then baby after baby came. After the 4th one came, I said no more children, because after I got my doctorate, I said no, we're not going to have any more. But basically having daughters, I really wanted to role model for them and tell them by getting my doctorate that they could do anything. So having my children, my daughters.
I have a question.
Okay, another question in the room?
I do feel empowerment of myself. I do feel that I have a pretty high self-esteem. Anybody can attest to that. But my one issue I know for myself is that I do pencil myself, but somehow that pencil flips over and the eraser takes over.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to put myself into my schedule, but for some reason I always let something else take precedence. How do you control that? How do you?
Anybody want to answer that?
No.
Do it.
Boundaries.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, those boundaries. Aren't you just as important?
No, believe me,
Yeah.
like I said, I have very high self-esteem. It's just that somehow I always let people or things or other priorities take precedence.
So we're going to give you that old Nike, just do it. Just do it. No, I mean, it really is, it's your, again, it's that permission that you give yourself. And I think that's the other key, is that women need to give themselves permission. It's okay. Take the other stuff, the guilt, whatever it is, the worry, whatever, put it over there. But again, permission. Give yourself permission. Say, today I'm giving myself permission to do this. This is for me. I'm giving myself permission. And if you have to do that for a while till it kind of becomes a habit, yeah.
I think we have time for one more question.
I was just going to ask, how do you change perceptions from the perspective that if a man is assertive or, out there, that it's positive, he's a go-getter, but if it's a woman, it tends to be not the case, that she's the D-word.
I guess the perception just started right there then. How do you change that? You just made that perception. It's basically that that's not true. That's again that stereotypical thinking that if a woman, I've been called the B word a lot. The point is that's not true.
So it's a matter of being just comfortable enough in your
own
skin.
being comfortable.
And take that.
Lisa Nichols.
Start making those changes.
Lisa Nichols is a profound writer, and she's written all kinds of books about empowerment. She says, if my light's too bright, just put your sunglasses on. That's the point, though. If I walk in a room and you're uncomfortable with me, that's your problem, not mine. I think that's it. That's women saying, I just want everybody to like me.
Right, but likability is critical, and then also
it is,
you get to move up.
but likability is also based on basic principles of integrity, responsibility, and all those other things. It's not that you're going to sacrifice yourself for likability. There's a difference. Being kind, we were talking about being kind and being friendly and being supportive. That's likability. It's not sacrificing yourself at somebody else's expense. For somebody else's expense. I know that's hard for women. It really is. We're talking about things that's why I'm up here. You've hit it right on the head. Boom, right on the head. And so that's what we have to keep working on. And that's why each one of you has to make sure you give permission to each other and support. And that's the mentor. And maybe there's probably somebody in your work area, somebody that you know right now that you can ask that question of how do you do it? Because all right, she says, I'm assertive. How do you do that? How are you comfortable with that? How did you learn to be comfortable with that? That's where the mentoring process begins and starts, because you both will learn something from it. How do you get more comfortable? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think we've all heard some incredible tools that we can add to our kits.
Good.
And on behalf of everyone here at QBE North America, Dr. Nancy O'Reilly would thank you for all of your wonderfulness and your strength that you bring to this room. And we thank all of you for joining the call and joining Dr. Nancy today, and wish you all a great day. This does.